My earliest memory of fear is the whisper of my own name, echoing in a darkness that breathed around me like a living thing. I was 6 years old, clutching my favorite stuffed rabbit, Marigold, her button eyes wide with unknowing dread. The room smelled of night and old wood, the moonlight slanting through the window, painting long, thin fingers across the carpet. I lay frozen under my covers, every muscle taut, every nerve alive with terror. Mama's voice drifted down the hallway, soft and comforting. I wanted to call out, but my throat had turned to stone. The darkness pressed closer, seeping beneath the edges of the blanket, pooling around my feet. Then I heard it again, a voice that was not mine, yet called me by name. It came from everywhere, and nowhere, slipping through the walls, curling around my heart. I squeezed my eyes shut and trembled. Marigold was my only anchor. Her fur was worn smooth from years of bedtime prayers and whispered secrets. I whispered to her, though I knew she couldn't answer. I whispered so the shadows wouldn't know I was alone. The breathing started then, a slow, deliberate inhale and exhale, as though something massive waited just beyond the edge of the bed. My heart hammered so loud I thought Mama might hear it and come running, but she didn't. The breathing drew closer. I tried to scream, but only a strangled sound came out. The shadow at the foot of the bed stretched, shifting like living smoke. 2 orbs of darkness glowed where eyes might have been. They drilled into me with hungry intent. Marigold slipped from my grasp. I felt her fall, heard her thud against the floor. The demon's laughter rose, a cold, cruel sound that made my blood run ice. They moved in, inch by inch, until I could see them clearly. Their bodies were lean and skeletal, their limbs too long, bent at unnatural angles. Their skin was the color of old charcoal, and their claws scraped the wood like nails on a coffin lid. I shut my eyes, praying for morning. But the night held me firm. Then a warmth bloomed behind my eyes, soft and golden. I felt it before I heard it. A pulse of light, a heartbeat against the storm of terror. I dared to open my eyes fractionally. There in the doorway stood a figure bathed in gentle light. She was tall and slender, with wings that arched behind her like blossoms of purest white. She stepped forward, and the shadows recoiled as though seared. Her voice was like wind through summer fields, soft, musical, certain. She spoke my name, not in summons or mockery, but in a promise. And suddenly the demons hissed, retreating toward the corners of the room. Their forms dissolved into smoke, curling away as though ashamed. The warmth grew stronger. Marigold lay at my side again, inexplicably returned to my arms as though she had never fallen. The angel knelt beside me, brushing a stray lock of hair from my forehead. Her eyes were infinite pools of compassion, reflecting every sorrow I would ever know and transmuting it into hope. She whispered something I did not comprehend, but in that moment, I understood. You are not alone. I closed my eyes and let her light wash over me. The terror faded, replaced by a peace I could scarcely believe. When at last I drifted into sleep, it was untroubled by nightmares. Years later, I would learn to question reality, to doubt the things unseen. I would learn that most people did not believe in demons or angels. They would think me a child with an overactive imagination, or worse, prone to wild tales. But I remembered. Every detail. The rasp of those claws, the hungry glow of those eyes, the sweet song of light that shattered the night. And I carried that memory with me, a lantern in the darkness, a testament to the unseen forces that shape our world. I grew older, but the memory remained vivid. On quiet nights long after the imagination of childhood should have faded, I sometimes felt that familiar breath against my neck. I would grip the edge of the bed, heart pounding, and whisper into the shadows, "Leave me be." And the darkness would hesitate, as though recognizing my voice. Then it would drift away. I could never see the angel again. I searched every night for that soft glow, that warmth of comfort. I prayed for her return, for some sign that I was still watched over. Sometimes I felt her presence at the edge of my dreams, A gentle hand on my shoulder, a breath of wind that whispered reassurance. But the world is unpredictable. Life can be cruel. There were moments when I felt utterly alone, when the shadows seemed to crowd in and swallow hope entirely. I grasped at fragments of faith, at half-remembered prayers, at the faint memory of that night's salvation. And then I would hear my name whispered, not in malice, but like a promise. I refused to forget. I wrote about it in secret journals, pages filled with trembling lines describing the shape of the wings, the tilt of her head, the way her voice filled the air like music. But when I tried to share the story, people laughed. They called me naive. They said I must have been dreaming or inventing a fairy tale. I stopped telling. I buried the pages in a box beneath my bed. I let the world believe me reasonable. I pursued education, a career, a life built on facts and logic. I became adept at ignoring the inexplicable. And yet, the inexplicable persisted. On the eve of my 25th birthday, I found myself unable to sleep. My apartment was dim, the city lights flickering like distant stars. I lay in bed restless and felt a cold breeze brush against my cheek. My heart lurched. The shadows in the room pulsed alive. I sat up, breath quick. The darkness in the corner thickened. I braced myself, expecting the worst. But then the room filled with light. Not harsh or blinding, but soft and enveloping. I blinked, and there she was, the angel of my childhood, standing as if no time had passed. Her wings arched wide, feathers glowing ethereally. Her gown shimmered like moonlight on water. She did not speak. She never spoke aloud, but I heard her nonetheless. You remembered. I nodded, tears coursing down my cheeks. I remembered every detail. I did not question. I only knew that she had come to remind me. Not because I needed rescue, but because I had to remember who I truly was. The shadows retreated, slinking back into the corners. I watched them go, powerless to intervene. Then the light faded, and the angel was gone. Only the scent of lilies and something ancient lingered in the air. The next morning, I found a single white feather on my pillow. It was as soft as silk, nearly weightless. I held it against my heart and wept. In the years since, I have faced darkness, both literal and metaphorical. I have watched loved ones suffer, felt grief that threatened to drown me. I have walked through valleys of doubt, questioned my faith, and stared into the void. But always I carry the memory of that angel, not as proof of miracles, but as a reminder that light exists even in the deepest night. That whispers in the darkness can be voices of hope rather than despair. Shadow demons may call my name, but I answer back. I say, I know who I am. I know who walks beside me. And sometimes, just sometimes, when the night is still and the world holds its breath, I feel a wing's brush behind me, a warmth that says, you are never alone. I do not claim to understand why I was chosen, why I was saved. Perhaps it was chance. Perhaps it was destiny. Perhaps I was simply the one who needed saving most, but I carry that gift with me always, a living testimony to the power of unseen grace. If you ever find yourself trapped in a darkness too deep to navigate, know this. Even the smallest spark of faith can kindle a light that no shadow can extinguish. Listen for your name in the silence. If the voice that answers promises comfort instead of fear, you may be closer to salvation than you realize. Because angels come in many forms. Sometimes they stand tall with wings of light. Sometimes they arrive as a memory, a whisper, a forgotten promise resurfaced at just the right moment. And sometimes they call you by name, reminding you of your worth, your purpose, your place in the grand tapestry of existence. I learned this when I was 6 years old, and I carry it with me still. The night may be long, the shadows may gather, but somewhere beyond the edge of darkness a light awaits, and that light will find you.